Hey gang, so finally got some ZDP steel. I'm going to run it through the gamut of testing and whatnot and do all the different edges on it and see if we can get the optimal performance out of it. Basil, what did I used to call these tests? It's been a while since I did one. Do you remember what it was called? I think it was called... ZDP 189 Spyderco Dragonfly factory edge angle, which from my eyeballing it looks to be about 18 or 19 degrees. Pretty machine-like, definitely not a polished finish. You can see how much twisted sisal it cuts before the knife no longer slices paper like this. Alrighty, let's get into it. Uh, 380 cuts just ragged enough now to no longer be reliably biting in for a good slice. So I'd say the absolute edge is now gone, but still a very usable knife. 380 on a factory edge, very impressive stuff. Cool, so I then went ahead and resharpened the steel. I put a 17 degree bevel on it with the Lansky. However, I had to pinch it back a fair way in the jaws of the Lansky, so I would say the angle's a little bit higher than 17 degrees. I would guess it's about 15 to 16. I had to go pretty slowly. It actually took me 2 goes to sharpen. So what I did is I went from coarse medium to fine diamond stones and then jumped in with ceramics at the fine, ultra fine and very almost smooth ceramic stones. And I've got, a relatively decent sort of mirror or really high polished finish on there that most importantly really goes through the paper fantastically. So very thin scalpel-like blade. Yeah, just overall I did find the sharpening a little bit trickier than the average steel, that's for sure though. So say if S30V is about a 7 out of 10 in terms of being easy, so 10 out of 10 is really easy. So say your 420 HCs, your 10 out of 10s, and then your Rex 121s, your 1 out of 10. I'd put this at about a 3 or a 4 out of 10. It's more challenging than the average steel for sure. Alright, so with that edge in mind though, let's get it going and see what it can do now with its sort of, I would guess about between 15 to 16 degree edge.
What is he doing?
He's beginning to believe.
Alrighty, so that was 480 passes with this V edge, about 100 or so more than a factory edge, which isn't surprising because factory edge probably quite similar to workshop, as in it's done with, you know, convexy kind of belts rather than precise flat surfaces making an exact V. So it's about what seems to happen. When I put the 17-degree edge on it, it generally does refine it a little bit. I think the polish was the right choice, seeing as this is relying on basically just carbon carbides to do the cutting. They seem to do pretty well when they're polished, rather than the vanadium ones, which are a little bit different. So yeah, pretty happy with that. That's a very good performance. Definitely up there swinging with M4. You pay about the same for an M4 knife as well. I just think this one actually has a fair degree of stainlessness to it. Not, you know, this will tarnish. A lot of that chromium's just been used up keeping those carbon carbides company, but it'll be more stain resistant than say your M4 and probably cost you about the same amount. So other attributes though, toughness. This has been known to be a little bit chippy, especially at higher Rockwells. But yeah, it's all just this whole thing that you make up your mind about. But I really like it. It's a really good steel and a really cool little choice for a knife like this. Real little scalpel. That second set of cuts just flew through. Just so sharp, so thin. Nice tall edge does the job really well. Alrighty, last of all, let's check the work sharp edge, see how that goes. Alrighty, as is generally commonly the case, the work sharp edge is the weakest of the edges, but I guess then takes the least amount of time to put on. My poor old hands. This is a good knife for like EDC use, but for repetitive long-term cutting, not ideal. But anyway, so 330 cuts with a work sharp edge on a ZDP 189 Dragonfly 2. The best takeaway from all this, and one of the coolest things about these blade steels is, as you've seen in this one test with this one knife, huge variability depending on the edge angle and the edge finish. So a lot of folks say they watch just purely the numbers that I get, but just remember, depending on what someone else has done with their edge, someone might be able to get this to 1,000 with like an 11-degree per side, you know, super toothy edge. Who knows? There's so many variables you can do. These are just my three or four ways, and generally I do the 17-degree polished, the work sharp, and sometimes I've been doing the factory lately, but that's what I can do. So as I always say, more testing the better. If you test in some other way, if you push cut down, if you cut until it no longer cuts the rope, if that's your stop point, then groovy. Just do it the same way every time and you got some good data there. So anyway, but yeah, I mean 189 in my opinion is a pretty good steel. It's a pretty high price for, I guess, for the knives that it's used on. So this is a tiny little piece of it on a Dragonfly, pay 150 Australian dollars for. I don't know, but I guess that's probably about par with S110V, all those sorts of steels, and it definitely swings with S110V and all those sorts of steels in actually all three. So it's work sharp edge, mid-30s, mid-300s is about what most of them seem to get. 110 I think got to 300, so it kind of outcut that a little bit. I think with the V edge it might have cut a little bit less than K390, a little bit more than M4. So it's good stuff, like definitely one of those upper tier in terms of edge retention steels. Various other properties involved in a knife edge, of course. Edge retention isn't everything. It might not matter to you at all. Maybe you want a tough knife that never rusts. In that case, get yourself some H1 or some, you know, LC200N, although that's got decent edge retention as well. So anyway, lots of variables. I hope you've enjoyed this little look at ZDP 189's edge retaining properties. So I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye, my friends.